everybody. This is Shaz Abbas again, and today we're going to learn about research misconduct. So by the end of this module, we will be able to identify the types of research misconduct, give examples of questionable research practices, and recognize authorship guidelines. Researchers are expected to adhere to ethical, legal, and professional guidelines that structure how research is conducted. The consequences that research misconduct might have or can have are considerable and potentially disastrous. For one, misconduct can really erode trust among colleagues. It can erode trust between researchers and funding agencies, which may make it more difficult for colleagues at the same institution to receive grants. Most importantly, research misconduct can cause the public to lose confidence in the ability and integrity of research. So, the first time that research misconduct was coined was in 1830 when the mathematician and inventor Charles Babbage wrote about an ethical practice that he had observed in British science. He discussed three things, which are hoaxing, frogging, trimming, and cooking of data as things that are not acceptable. Hoaxing and fogging occurs when one makes up data, so they just like invent data without any like basis. Trimming usually occurs when one clips off pieces of data that do not agree with one hypothesis. And the last one was cooking occurs when one manipulates data in order to make them appear to be more accurate than they really are. Later on, another definition was proposed by the British Consensus Panel. And they defined research misconduct as the behavior by researchers, intentional or not, that falls short of good ethical and scientific standard. Now, the definition for the research conduct, according to the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy in 2002, is fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research or in reporting research results. The Wellcome Trust definition for research misconduct includes deliberate and dangerous or negligent deviation from accepted practices in carrying out research and failure to follow established protocol if this failure results in unreasonable risk or harms to humans and other invertebrate or the environment. When we talk about definition of research misconduct, fabrication is the first one that usually defines research conduct, which is defined as making up data or results and recording or operating them. In other words, fabrication is the practice of generating data without having performed the relevant research. And sometimes we call it like the dry lab, so you get data without doing any research. Research findings should not be discussed, shared, or published unless the work has been genuinely undertaken. وبالعربي اسمها التلفيق أو الاختلاق أو الفبركة. So you get like data without even doing the research itself. The second category is falsification, which is manipulating research material, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data. Or results such that the research is not accurately represented in the research record. So you selectively eliminate data points resulting from an intent to generate a misleading conclusion is one of example of falsification اللي هو بالعربي هو التزوير. The third one is plagiarism, which is usually is defined as the appropriation of another person's idea as or processes, results, or works without giving appropriate credit to them. And this is really something that we have to be very careful about. The three of them are really serious, but sometimes plagiarism is done more than the others. So it's not appropriate to like use other people's ideas or their wordings or results without giving appropriate credit to them. For example, one example, very simple example that sometimes we do is like just like copy and paste in our papers or like in projects. And this is one kind of plagiarism. We cannot really copy and paste. Even if we put like credit to somebody, we have to use our own words, or it's plagiarism. Research misconduct usually does not include honest error or differences in opinion. So it mainly is fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. According to the European standards, they have even a broader definition, and they added like with like these three things, the falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism, they added authorship problem like guest, honorary, ghost authorship, gift, reciprocal. I'm going to talk about that in a few slides. Also funds mismanagement أو هو سوء إدارة الأموال وإساءة استخدامها أموال البروجect. The 6N is any act which, in accordance with the established academic norms, is considered an act of research integrity misconduct, such as piracy, اللي هي القرصنة, defamation أو التشهير, misinterpretation, سوء التفسير, sabotage, التخريب, professional misconduct, سوء السلوك المهني. كل الحاجات دي, all of them, they are also regarded as research misconduct. Also, we can add, as we said, like data falsification and fabrication. We talked about that. And ethical research is one of them. Defective data description, image manipulation. If you have like a histological slide that you want to present, then you start like manipulating it, adding like colors or like taking off some colors. This is called image manipulation. Inadequate authorship, for example, if there is an author that you're not mentioning, or an author that you're mentioning that he did not even contribute to the work. Undeclared conflict of interest. Usually most of the journals now ask like if you have a conflict of interest in this research. And conflict of interest, as we had like explained it before, it's not like a big problem, but the problem is not declaring it. So undeclared conflict of interest is also defined as a type of scientific misconduct. And redundant publication, in which you publish your results and then republish them again and republish them again, just changing the title and like the methodology or something like that, also is regarded as scientific misconduct. And as we stated before, plagiarism. There is a continuum from truly correct to truly deceptive scientific research, and there is a lot of gray area between them. And as you can see here in this photo, is that like we have like the good research practices here in your left side, and we have like the fabrication and plagiarism and falsification, which is research misconduct on the other side, and we have like questionable research practices like conscious and unconscious bias. So sometimes you can do things that you're not conscious about, or you're biased, being like sloppy or like not taking care of things. It's not like research misconduct, but like if you are starting to falsify and fabricate data, then you are in the other end, the red end of the spectrum. So now you are in the era of like research misconduct. Examples of questionable research practices, it's not like research misconduct, but questionable. That's the one that we just like stated on the green part, is like neglecting negative outcomes, using inappropriate statistic to support one hypothesis, inappropriate research design, leaving out relevant controls, inappropriate reuse of control, conscious bias, unethical experiments, peer review abuse. All this, what we call, is questionable research practices. They are a form of research misconduct, but they do not like qualify to be as plagiarism, falsification, and fabrication. So the question comes, how do like institutes respond to research misconduct? A recognition of the problem by scientific community and its leader is very important. That research misconduct exists, it happens, and there should be guidelines and ways to really respond to this. There should be, like in any institute, each and every institute, there should be an independent body that deals with it. They lead the investigation. When they are aware of research misconduct happening, they have to lead an investigation and start like seeing what's going on. Also, they have like to prevent by teaching, mentoring research investigator regarding these things that should not be happening. And they should have an agreement on what misconduct is. I mean, like even in the gray area, if an institute thinks like that unethical research is type of research misconduct, they have to have an agreement on that. And usually they have codes for that in each and every institute. An important thing that also should be implemented in the institute guidelines is the protection of whistleblowers. And whistleblowers are those people who can declare that there is a research misconduct happening. So if I go and tell the leaders or the people in charge of the Office of Research Integrity that X is doing some research misconduct, then they have to protect me, and that's who, now I'm a whistleblower. Now I'm like, because I'm blowing the whistle, telling them that there is a red flag here, come and investigate. So sometimes these whistleblowers, they get like also very bad treatment in institutes because they've been like telling regarding like this research misconduct. So a way of protection for these whistle blowers is really very important. Also, there should be a body that usually investigate allegations. If somebody comes and like states us there is some kind of research misconduct going on, like an allegation, there should be a good body to investigate that, and a fair system of reaching a judgment, as well a good practice in that institute. Also, there should be a system for teaching good practice, like teaching proper research ethics, proper writing ethics and stuff like this, because if they don't know, then you cannot ask them to practice this. The United States was the first country to introduce legislations and federal laws to deal with research misconduct. The Office of Scientific Integrity, the National Institute of Health, and Office of Scientific Integrity in the Office of Assistant Secretary of Health was established in 1989. Later on, they merged. In 1993, the Office of Research Integrity became an independent body that introduced policies to manage research misconduct. So it oversees research activities and investigates allegations of research misconduct in all research institutes in the US. Usually the US regulatory response in 1989, the National Institute of Health institution to conduct structured training in responsible conduct of research. So they started with training their people, all investigators, on the responsible conduct of research. And then in 2000, the Office of Research Integrity mandated these researchers receiving any public health service fund to receive an instruction in 9 core topics in protection and in research and responsible conduct of research. So it became mandatory. If you're getting any funds, any public funds, you have to get these 9 core topics in responsible conduct of research, which are data management, authorship and publication, peer review, mentoring, collaboration, research misconduct, conflict of interest, research in animals, and research with humans. So these are the 9 core areas that anybody there doing research and getting public health service funds, getting any money from the government, they have to be trained in these 9 core topics. Then a group of prominent journal editors realized the scale of research misconduct and found a committee called the Committee on Publication Ethics, COPE, in 1997. The committee assumed an advisory role initially by 2008, and it was founded as a charity first with a code of conduct and constitution. Similar bodies were established, like the UK Research Integrity Office was established in 2006. So it's not only in the US, but every country now has like an Office of Research Integrity. It's the same way even we have it here in Sudan. And at least I know, like at the University of Khartoum in 2020, the Office of Research Integrity was established at the University of Khartoum, and they wrote their code of ethics and regulations to protect research, and they had like also they followed these 9 codes. We jump now to authorship. Who should be an author? This is usually a big problem when it comes to publication, because like it's one of like the things that throw people crazy. I should be an author. Who should be an author? Who should be a first author? Who should be a second? Who should be a third? The sequence and the order is something that we have, like when we start the research project, we have to talk about and reach a consensus about it. But who should be an author? An author should be somebody who had a substantial contribution to the conception or design or acquisition, analysis and interpretation of data. So like he should be like from the beginning, from the concept of the project to the design of the project, acquisition of the data, then the analysis of the data and interpretation of the data. He has to do all these things. Plus that he has to play a role in drafting the article or revising it critically for important intellectual content. And he should finally approve the version to be published and agree to be accountable for accuracy and integrity of all aspects of work. So to be an author, you have to fulfill all these 4 things, not just 2 of them, all the 4 of them. So if you just do the final approval, you're not an author. You have to start from the conception to the design, acquisition, analysis, and drafting, and final approval. This is according to International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. So this is how like authorship is decided. So who's not qualified for authorship? If you help somebody with data analysis or collection, if you help them in acquisition of fund, providing and caring for study of patients, providing materials, collecting data, writing technical or language, editing of paper, famous dissertation committee chaired or third author, general supervision of the research group, someone to whom you owe a favor, all these are not qualified for authorship. And even they say like people who you pay to do like laboratory work, they're not qualified as author. People that you pay to really do like statistical analysis, they're not qualified to be an author. It depends, because sometimes statisticians, they like they contribute to the design and everything, like they start from the beginning, but if not, then they're not qualified to be for authorship. If they help you like with the data collection, you pay them for that, they're not author. All these contributors should be listed in the acknowledged section of the paper, so they're not authors. We have to all agree on what make you an author and what not make you an author. And this is, as I said, it's a very sensitive issue. Also, there are some types of authorship that you don't want to do, which one of them is guest authorship. These are authors who do not meet the accepted authorship criteria, but are listed because of their seniority, reputation, or supposed influences. So sometimes we put them to get our paper published, but this is not an accepted behavior. Another one is gift or honorary authorship. Also, these are authors that do not meet the accepted authorship criteria, but are listed as personal favor or in return of payment. Just you're putting them because you owe them something. They wrote you in your paper, you write them in your paper. This is not accepted, and if the journal knows about this, even after they publish it, they can retract the paper. Ghost author are those who meet the authorship criteria but are not listed. These are people who have contributed to your paper, but you're not listing them. And these are like, for example, like pharmaceutical employees of pharmaceutical companies, or medical writers, and marketing and public related writers, and junior staff writers for elected and appointed offices. Also, sometimes there is something called anonymous authorship. So this is not a wrong thing, but sometimes there is one author that he states that he does not want to be written by name in this publication. It's usually many times in social sciences it happens, and like because like him being in that paper might like cause him like serious hardship, like threat to personal safety or loss of employment, so he prefers not to be written. And there is the group authorship. If a group of researchers conduct a research on a project, such as a multi-center trial, sometimes they just put a consensus document and they put themselves as an expert panel. So you don't put like each author by itself. And there is also deceased or incapacitated authors for cases in which the co-author dies or incapacitated during the writing, submission or peer review process. Co-author should obtain disclosure and copyright documentation from family or legal proxy for those deceased or incapacitated authorship. Because many of the journals now, if like you list somebody an author, they send him an email and they verify that he is an author or not. If they do not reply, or they're deceased or incapacitated, then the journal will start not accepting your paper. So it's very important that you stick to these authorship guidelines and regulation. There are also examples of authorship abuse in the literature, which is called coercion authorship, in which you use intimidation tactics to gain authorship. And usually it involves threats of tenuity over subordinates or junior investigator to gain ownership. So like they tell you, if you don't put me in your paper, you might not get promoted, or you're in trouble, or it's just like, even if they don't talk, you understand that they have to you have to put their name in your paper or you'll be in trouble. This is some type of coercion. So this is also an unaccepted behavior. Sometimes it's not limited to senior versus junior investigator. It could be between two junior investigators, but one of them is just like abusing the other or harassing them. The last thing that we want to talk about is like ghost journals. So we talked about ghost authorship. There are also something called ghost journal, which has published fake journals. Sometimes we have like a lot of fake journals on the, especially now with like online journals. So one have to be very careful when they're submitting their papers or research to these journals. Because if you submit your work to such journal like the fake journal, they cannot be cited. You cannot get like H score for that. You cannot get any credit for that because they're just not peer-reviewed journal, or fake journals, which is like what we call like they just like solicit papers, but they're not real. They're not real journals. So we have to be very careful and check on the journals before we submit them. To wrap up, research misconduct is something that happens a lot, and we need really to be careful about it. Sometimes it's done because people they don't know. Some people they know, but they think they can go away with it. If you don't know, or if you know, if you do it, then it's research misconduct. It doesn't matter. That's why we have always to be careful. We have to teach around us, teach people about like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. We have to be very sensitive to the others, respect their ideas, respect their writing, and researchers must also be careful to assess whether a suspected incident or misconduct is genuine and not merely byproduct of misunderstanding. Also, we have to be very careful to avoid letting a personal conflict or a professional difference of opinion drive us to file a misconduct complaint. An allegation of research misconduct is a serious matter that should only be reserved for situations where evidence indicates that there is really a reasonable deviation from ethical or professional norms, and it must be sincerely believed that a colleague had committed that act or an act that qualifies as misconduct, such as taking part of data fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. Thank you, and I'll see you during the group discussion for any questions regarding this. Thank you so much.